Hey, this is Dustin, and today I'm going to be talking about Bretton Woods in northern New Hampshire. So, Bretton Woods has three mountains: Mount Stickney, Mount Rosebrook, and West Mountain. They have 1,500 feet of vertical drop, 97 trails, 35 of which are glades. Their longest run is 2 miles. The total acreage is 464, and they get approximately 200 inches of snow annually. For the 2019-2020 season, the mountain will have 10 lifts. The first is an 8-passenger gondola that has not yet been completed as of the time of this recording. This gondola will go from the base area, right from the base lodge, to close to the top of Mount Rosebrook. I believe this is going to be a vertical rise of about 1,300 feet, so the top of the mountain is only 200 feet higher. This should provide some long runs from the top of the gondola down to the bottom, and this is something that the mountain really needs, and I think it'll be a great addition to an already pretty good place to ski. They have 4 high-speed quads from left to right looking at the mountain. First is the Rosebrook Summit Express quad. This happens to be one of the shortest high-speed quads in North America. This lift services some of the steeper terrain at Bretton Woods, and it is the main way that most people will get to the Rosebrook Canyon Glades and the Telegraph T-Bar. But if you're sessioning this lift, you'll probably be skiing some of the mountain's steeper groom trails, as well as a couple glades and a couple little chutes under the lift, which are always fun. The next high-speed quad is the Bethlehem Express high-speed quad. This is kind of the main lift that goes from the base area to about 3/4 of the way up the mountain. This lift services a lot of blue and green groomed runs, as well as a couple black diamonds further down the mountain. This is also the chair that you'll probably take to get to the Rosebrook Summit Express. The next chair I'm going to talk about is the Zephyr High Speed Quad. This chair goes from the base area as well, and it goes to about halfway between Mount Rosebrook and West Mountain, so this is kind of more of the central lift. This lift services a lot of blue squares as well as a green run and a couple glades, and this is the way that most people will get over to West Mountain. The next lift is the West Mountain Express High Speed Quad. This lift obviously services all of West Mountain. This area has a lot of glades, as well as a couple black and blue runs, as well as one green that you can get down on if you're a very beginner. This lift has some of the best glades at the mountain, and many experts will spend a good portion of the day over here. There's one fixed grip quad, which is the Learning Center quad, services 2 beginner trails, and it's a good place to learn how to ski. There's one triple, which is the Fabian's triple chair. This lift starts halfway up the mountain and goes toward the top of Mount Rosebrook. It's generally only open on weekends and holidays, or if it's especially busy. So I would generally tend to avoid this trail unless the lines at all the other lifts are so long, because it has slow speeds and it doesn't really offer any terrain that can't be accessed from either the gondola or the Rosebrook chair. There's also 3 surface lifts, 2 of which are down at the Learning Center, and they are basically kind of carpet typed lifts. And there's also one called the Telegraph T-Bar, which is the only lift on Mount Stickney. This lift services only glades, and there are 5 of them. This is a really good lift to session if you're coming down from Mount Rosebrook and want to hit a few glades. There aren't generally a lot of people over here, and I especially enjoy Glade 5 because of its steeper pitch, and this is kind of a cool spot because you can get down into some of the lower Rosebrook Canyon glades when you're skiing back to the base. So I started skiing at Bretton Woods when I was 3 years old. My family went up there a lot, I've been skiing there just about every year, every other, ever since then. I think I probably have a total of, 50 to 75 days skiing there, and I always enjoy coming back and seeing what kind of new expansions they have, as well as skiing some of my old favorites from my childhood. So now I'm going to list the pros of Bretton Woods, the things that I think are positive and the things that I like about this mountain. So the first is that there is one base area. No matter where you are on the entire mountain, one run will get you back down to the same base area. This makes it easy to meet up with friends and family and makes it so you never really get too lost. Also, I appreciate the size and variety of terrain. This mountain is pretty big. There's a lot of lifts and obviously a lot of trails. And there's really something for just about everyone of all abilities. My next pro is the glades. There are a lot of them, and a lot of them are very fun, and there's a lot of different kinds of glades for all different abilities, especially toward the more beginner side of things. And some of the double blacks get somewhat difficult at times, although they probably don't have anything that's truly at an expert level. So because of my recommendation, here's some footage of me skiing in Rosebrook Canyon from this past season. Another pro is the intermediate terrain. There's a lot of blues, and this is a really good spot to go if you're an intermediate. I think all the lifts are pretty skiable for anyone who's at a strong intermediate level. The next pro is probably my favorite as I've gotten older, and that's definitely the views of the Presidential Range and the surrounding White Mountains. This view of Mount Washington and all the other mountains in this range is probably the best that you're going to get on the East Coast. It's definitely more reminiscent of the West Coast or the Alps. The majority of this range is above the tree line, and you can see these mountains from almost anywhere at Bretton Woods. So this is definitely a pro if you want to take in some gorgeous sights, as well as the beautiful Mount Washington Hotel, which sits at the bottom of those mountains. The next thing I like about Bretton Woods is definitely the lifts. Most of them are high speed and fairly new. You can get a ton of runs in if you're sessioning one lift, just because you can get up so quick and you can get down fairly quickly as well. And especially with this new gondola that they're supposed to be putting in, I think makes the fleet of lifts even stronger. There's also a lot of good spots to stay, whether it be on mountain condos, which there are a lot of, Mount Washington Hotel, or a couple of other places. I definitely recommend the ski in, ski out condos if you have a big enough crew that you can split the price. They're actually pretty affordable. The next pro is the off-slope activities, which granted I haven't done a lot of. There is a canopy tour, which is comprised of a lot of zip lines and rope bridges and things like that. There's also cross-country skiing. I believe there's dog sledding, horse-drawn carriages, and all kinds of stuff like that that's available. So if you're going with a couple people and not all of them are interested in skiing, I think there will be something to at least keep most people occupied. Also, the next pro is the grooming and snowmaking. If groomers are your thing, you're not going to find a much better job than this. And it does seem like there's always snow on the trails of snowmaking, even in low snow years. So now it's time to talk about the cons. No mountain is perfect, and Bretton Woods is no exception. The number one thing I hear people complain about is the lack of steeps. This mountain is generally pretty flat, although some of the Rosebrook Canyon glades and stuff over on Rosebrook Summit, as well as West Mountain, gets into some steep territory. There's no true sustained steep runs. Also, the parks are certainly lacking. There are three, and the features are generally pretty small and poorly made. This can be a good spot for progression if you're just learning, and you can do a few smaller tricks on the features, but this is not a good place to go if you're a serious park skier or rider. Also, the vert and run length is generally it's not great for the place in the country that this is in. 1,500 feet is not breaking any records, although the runs from the top of Mount Rosebrook all the way to the bottom are pretty long. It takes 2 lifts to get all the way up there. I think this new gondola will go a long way for helping people take longer runs. This is by far the longest lift at Bretton Woods, but still, I think that compared to many other mountains on the East Coast, the run length is pretty short. Also, it's relatively far from major metro areas unless you live in Boston. It's very far from New York, where I live, and also, Philadelphia and Montreal. So for the lodges, they're generally pretty standard. There's the main base lodge, which has a cafeteria style restaurant as well as a bar on the second floor, plenty of seating. This is where you'll book your rentals, buy your tickets, etc. There's an Alpine Club, which is for members only. I've never been in there. I don't know what's going on in there. There's a restaurant called Latitude 44, which is at the top of the Bethlehem Express. This is a sit-down restaurant, and the views from this spot are really beautiful, so you can have a pretty nice meal and enjoy it with some spectacular views. Also, there's the Mount Stickney Cabin, which is at the top of the T-bar over there. This place has some kind of bare bones food, like hot dogs and hamburgers, etc. And it's a good place if you're all the way over there. You don't have to ski to the base, and it's generally pretty empty. There's also this place called Shooters, which I've never been to, which is at the top of the Zephyr Chair, and I believe they only have candy. For future expansion, I don't think they have too much planned other than the 8-passenger gondola that I already mentioned should be opening for this season, 1920. This lift was supposed to open for the 18-19 season, but was delayed due to alleged supply chain issues. This will be a great lift, as I already mentioned, and I think it will alleviate some of the congestion that happens at the base area on busy days, weekends, and holidays. Although many skeptics are saying that there are not enough cabins. I think they ordered only about 30, so this will be relatively low capacity, although it will be high speed and has a long run length. This could be alleviated by ordering more cabins in the future, and I expect them to do so in the years that follow if this lift catches on as far as popularity. There's also going to be a new lodge at the top of the gondola, which I think will be probably more upscale than anything they have going on now. I believe they plan to host weddings and stuff like that, as well as make it a good summer destination, and they'll probably have gondola rides for tourists during the summer, and I expect there to be a couple restaurants in there, and it seems like there's going to be some really good views from the top of this lodge. So that concludes my review of Bretton Woods Mountain Resort. Please let me know if you have any opinions about this in the comments, if you think I missed anything, or if you have a different opinion than me. Let me know, and I'll be back soon for another review.